What's up everyone, welcome back to the Cinema Corner. Gonna record a quick review here for Avatar Fire and Ash. I apologize for not getting this up sooner, but I've been busy lately and this is all I have time for, so I'm gonna keep this one brief. I really enjoyed the first Avatar. Way of Water is great as well, maybe even better, so I was super excited for this. As far as my overall thoughts are on Avatar Fire and Ash, I think it's decent. It is the longest Avatar film, and it feels the longest out of the three, even though it isn't by a significant margin. And I think there's a couple of reasons that people are starting to feel Avatar fatigue from this series. For one thing, the original is so innovative. It was a huge milestone for its time, technologically speaking. And then The Way of Water was not released until 2022, which is a solid 12 years after the original. And this one is coming out 3 years later. So the technological advancements between Way of Water and this are pretty minimal. With that said, and this is going to be a big shocker to all of you who are wondering, the movie still looks amazing. It's incredible. If you're going to see this solely for the spectacle, and I think a lot of people do, you're going to get that tenfold. It looks incredible. It sounds incredible. I don't know how I feel about the way James Cameron uses high frame rate for a couple of sequences. It was a bit jarring just to watch it switch back and forth between higher frame rates and lower frame rates. With that said, this movie has a significant problem, and that is it's highly repetitious, and not just repetitious of its predecessors, but also of itself. But let's talk about how it relates to The Way of Water first of all, because this movie, narratively speaking, is so similar to its predecessor that I would argue it sometimes feels like a copy and paste, and that's a significant problem. I was hoping that this would be something that furthers the storyline, and I think out of the three movies, it accomplishes the least. There are specific sequences in here that feel so identical to scenes from The Way of Water that if you were to put a scene from The Way of Water and the scene from Fire and Ash side by side and had me pick which one was from which movie, I would struggle to give you the answer. That's how on point some of these repetitious scenes are. There are definitely some new things introduced here. For instance, the Fire and Ash tribe, which is led by Una Chaplin's new villain, Varang, I think is her name. Really cool stuff there. I do find that she was underutilized, and I don't think there was a lot of payoff from that storyline, but what they introduced and what they set up was really cool. And it's like every time this movie's story was moving in a different direction than The Way of Water and the first Avatar, and it was entering fresh territory, it's like Cameron gets all scared and then he just reverts back to his comfort zone and just repeats the same plot points that we saw from the previous film. And we are now 3 movies into this series, 9 hours of story. I expect them to kind of try to reach some new ground here. There are some great moments for sure. In particular, like Jake Sully and Spider, 2 characters that I like, but I've never really found to be like the pinnacle of these movies. They get some strong development in here. A lot of the characters get strong development. It's just a lot of it gets kind of swept under the rug under this massive bloated runtime, so many repetitious elements that, like, if you would have taken them out of the movie, you could chop it down like a good 45 minutes. And I think I mentioned this before, the movie is not only repetitious in terms of the previous 2 movies, but also in and of itself. There are so many times in this movie in which a character gets taken hostage. Someone has to go rescue them. They get rescued. Everyone gets away, and then someone else gets taken hostage, and so on and so forth, and characters flip allegiances on the fly. It's just too much back and forth nonsense that doesn't fully push the plot forward. Now, that sounded like a lot of complaining, but I had a fun time watching the movie, guys. It has its issues. I would still recommend Avatar Fire and Ash, especially if you're in it for the spectacle and you're going to check it out on IMAX or something. But check your expectations for sure, because this is the weakest film in the trilogy, in my opinion. I am aware of the fact that The Way of Water and Fire and Ash were filmed back to back, so whether or not we get an Avatar 4 is very much dependent on this one making enough money to justify doing so. I'm going to give Avatar Fire and Ash 3 stars. It's disappointing, but not bad by any means. I just think it feels a little too much like The Way of Water all over again, just with a few tweaks here and there. So I'm hoping that Avatar 4, if we do get it, will progress things forward a little bit for some of the characters, as much as I am still invested in the characters in the world and the world building. And it's definitely the type of movie that I might rewatch it and see some things that I missed in it the first time, because it is just so much packed into this massive bloated runtime. But again, I don't know when I'm going to have 3 hours and 19 minutes set aside to rewatch this giant conglomerate. But those are my thoughts for now. I urge you guys to leave your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe. If you want more videos like this, I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later.